We entered the machine together and we waited. Time seemed to stop or move at an unknowable speed. It was impossible to tell. But suddenly everything was moving. Though we hadn't physically moved from the space, nor had the machine itself moved as far as we could tell, there was an insurmountable movement between us. It was as if our very awarenesses became alive. It began small at first, but it grew gradually, quickly. It was hard to tell. My vision blurred, my hearing became only a deep, low rumble. I lost all feeling in my skin except for a mild vibration, tremoring throughout every muscle in my body. And none of this was unpleasant. It was all with a slight warmth, a heat from both inside and out of myself that spread throughout my physical body and my mind. Like being submerged in a thick, soft liquid, an enveloping blanket that folded perfectly into every part of my being. As all of this happened, I lost all awareness of my position, where I was, even who I was. I had no memory of the machine, of the world, my followers, all of you, the primaries, the inhabitants, nothing. I simply was, just existing as pure consciousness, the barest minimum of such, and so I was without fear or anxiety, making the experience not even particularly enjoyable, but just simply happening without emotion tied to its significance. These feelings grew for a time that I can't say, and until eventually I began to sense something present with me, something other than myself. Myself was all I knew at this point, so even the concept of there being something else in any way was now foreign to me. But I sensed it, and through some primordial intuition, my consciousness knew that this other thing was another consciousness, like mine, like me, in fact. So similar to mine, it was hard to even call this second one an other. We were the same, almost identical, two base forms of awareness sensing each other, feeling the same feelings, moving towards each other, like insects moving to light, an instinct telling us to be closer, to find each other. And we did. There were no physical differences to tell us that we'd met, that we were joining, forming into something beyond ourselves, but we both knew it was happening. Now, in some vague back room of my mind, I had the knowledge of my entire life. I was unable to remember exact memories, relive exact experiences like normal, and I still couldn't say even exactly who or what I was, but all of those memories, everything that makes me me, it was all suddenly there. And then, an instant or hours later, so were hers. Again, I had no understanding of memories, and I wasn't able to remember specific things, but I now knew this other awareness in its entirety, as much as I knew myself. I had a complete understanding of this other person, everything that made her who she was, every memory and experience, every feeling and emotion she'd ever felt, every individual characteristic throughout her entire existence that formed her into the person she'd become. I shared entirely, and she shared mine. We suddenly knew each other more than any human being, any normal consciousness ever had or ever could. The process was free of judgment and fear and shame. Our melding of consciousness was filled with elation, with an ecstasy like that warm, thick blanket draping over us tenfold, folding us into each other to become one, sharing an entire life's worth of experiences in a moment. In the time this was all happening, I was still unable to properly grasp this understanding. There was no ego, no outside perspective of this melding. It was simply happening, and I felt it happening, but was otherwise free of all control or awareness. And it was incredible. I wish I could say I knew when and where the process ended, but I awoke before any of that. It all only came to me in a dream. This glimpse of another universe, this other possible timeline. But in this universe, our universe, we waited, and nothing happened. Nothing changed. Like all the inhabitants who tried before us, we were stuck there. And the movement, all of you who had once been my followers, you were still not satisfied.